It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
Welcome to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. This is the show about stuff going on at the University of Louisville. The good stuff going on, like the research and what the students are doing and programming and those kinds of things. So stick around and maybe you'll learn something about UofL in the next half hour or so. On the show today, would you like to get into the bourbon or horse racing business? Have you always wanted to get an MBA but couldn't get to campus to do it? Well, the University of Louisville College of Business is offering a slew of new programs, some of which may be up your alley, and we'll have some folks here to tell you about them. And some studies have shown that kids understand ownership and what's theirs and what's not by age 3. But U of L studies have found that's not quite that simple for kids. We'll hear about those studies. But first, do you have a hearing problem? Do you have parents with hearing issues, but maybe they don't want to admit it, or you don't want to get brought along when they go to an audiologist appointment? Jill Preminger is a researcher and program director in U of L's audiology department, and Raquel Heacock got her degree in audiology from U of L last year and now works at the Kentucky Hearing Clinic, and they're here to talk about a couple of different things related to adults and adult hearing loss and what you should do with mom and dad when they start losing their hearing, right?
That's right.
All right. Jill, Raquel, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. And Raquel, congratulations. Graduated last year.
Yes,
right?
thank you very much.
So you're a doctor, aren't you?
That's right.
And doctor of audiology.
Audiology.
Is that what you are? All right, very good. All right. And Jill, what's your history? How long have you taught at the university?
Wow, I've been here about 21 years. I don't really understand how that happened.
Couldn't be that long, right? There's no way.
But and been in the program of audiology the whole time, and have a passion for audiology and for convincing adults with hearing loss to actually do something about it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about that. You two worked on a research project together where you looked at adult hearing loss and basically how their kids, adult children, fit into their care, essentially, right? So what was the research about, and what did you find?
Well, we started this research because while hearing loss affects communication, we all know that and pretty much understand that. So it also affects quality of life. And research shows that people with hearing loss may have more depressive symptoms than people without, have smaller, they go out less, they have less social interaction, and actually there is some relation with dementia. So it's pretty important. And then research that has recently shown that family members also have some of these quality of life issues when they have a loved one with hearing loss. Like spouses have similar types of problems that, because of their husband or wife with hearing loss. So we were interested to see if adult children were also affected in a similar way. And so Raquel can tell.
So when we're talking adult children, like my parents are, 86 years old, and I'm 59, and my dad's going through some hearing loss stuff. So you're trying to figure out what role I play in there.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. And our research focused on adult children that were at least 21 years old, and that way we could gauge, their part in the hearing healthcare journey of their parent. And like Dr. Preminger was explaining, a lot of this research has been done on spouses. And we know that social support is linked to hearing aid uptake, use, and ultimate satisfaction of the hearing aid. But not a lot of research has done on these adult children. And what we found with the adult children is that it really does impact their quality of life, just like it's impacting the person and individual with hearing loss, in that a loss, a feeling of missing out, a decline in their relationship. So it's really important that, we get this aspect of the adult child because even though, and as we'll discuss, not many may attend the appointment with their parent, they're still very actively involved in the journey and checking up on their parent and things like that.
We're talking with Jill Preminger from the University of Louisville Audiology Department, and also Raquel Heacock, who got her degree from U of L and now works at the Kentucky Hearing Clinic. We're talking about the research and the studies that they've been doing on adult hearing issues and how it's impacting other family members. So what is the impact on me as the son if I've got a dad that's having hearing loss problems? What's the problem with me? Just that I have trouble talking to
Well,
My dad, is that the impact on me?
Well, we found that there's a lot of frustration in adult children and how difficult it is to communicate. And we find, and as Raquel said, we find that there's a lot of loss of the previous relationship. So if you're having trouble communicating with a parent, you may not bother to talk to them on the phone as much, or when you're with them, you may not bother to tell them a story about what happened to you earlier in the day. So there's a loss of that relationship that you had before.
That absolutely makes sense.
And then also there's, we found a lot of confusion and of why didn't my parent remember what I told him? Is it because he's got dementia, or is it maybe he didn't hear me in the first place and that's why he didn't remember it? So there's a lot of confusion about what's really going on here.
That makes perfect sense. So Raquel, in your practice, are you finding that folks show up and come to the hearing appointments with their mom or dad?
You know, that's a good question. A lot of times, how it works with the appointment is first we'll do the hearing test. And after we discuss the results of the hearing test, if a hearing aid is recommended, the audiologist then has an opportunity to invite other family members to the fitting appointment for the hearing aid. So I would say that initially, we may not see a lot of family members come in for that first appointment, but I think that part of the important part of this research is that we now can convey that the audiologist has that opportunity to re-encourage other family members to come to future appointments if they're available.
And Jill, you've done some other research kind of looking into this about what the role is of the adult child. Is some of it just trying to convince mom or dad to wear their damn hearing aid?
Well, well, definitely, and actually, to follow up with what Raquel just said, research also suggests that it's great to have the family members come even to the initial appointment to talk about, do we want to do something? Because most people are reluctant to do something about their hearing problems because of stigma, because of hearing losses associated with aging and being less competent, but even though that's not the case, and due to cost. And so when you have this big decision to make about, should I get a hearing aid? Should I go through with some type of management for my hearing problem? It really helps to have a family member with you so that the family members can help you decide, yes, this is important. This is important for our relationship, for our family, and to spend this money and this time and this effort because this is important. Then once somebody does have their hearing aids, yes, it's often important to have family members encourage their parent or spouse to actually wear the hearing aid, and if they're having trouble, to go back to the audiologist to see why they're not wearing it all the time.
We're talking with Jill Premature and Raquel Heacock, who are both have ties to the University of Louisville. Raquel just got her degree in audiology from UofL last year, and Jill Premature has been teaching at the School of Audiology, the Department of Audiology for 21 years, I think you said, right?
Yeah.
Is it a problem in your mind as audiologists that perhaps people don't take their hearing appointments quite as seriously as they might take a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment?
I would say yes, because like she was mentioning earlier, there is a stigma associated with hearing loss. And initially, it's difficult to realize first that you want to come in and get an appointment in the first place. A lot of people think that and associate hearing aids with age, and just it's difficult to get people in for that first appointment.
Right, the first appointment. But once they get there, then is the recommendation then, as you already talked a little bit about, to go ahead and bring somebody with you if you're older, if you're 78, 80, 85 years old, should you reach out to someone in your family and say, hey, I'm going to the audiologist, I'd like you to come along with me?
Sure, definitely. And I think you should bring somebody with you no matter what age you are. 4 ears are better than 2.
That's right.
Well, what other recommendations do you have based on your research for family members on what we should do?
Well, I think that we should try to talk to family members and about hearing loss being an issue that it's important to deal with early rather than later. Some of the data shows that 27% of people in their 60s have hearing loss. 55% of people in their 70s have some degree of hearing loss, and less than 20% of adults with hearing loss do anything about it.
Really?
Yeah, and we think that hearing loss should be considered as a public health condition. It's a public health concern. Hearing loss is considered one of the most important modifiable risk factors for dementia. Again, there's no cause and effect that we know of, but it could be that social isolation that hearing loss promotes may somehow be the link. But I think that we need to talk about hearing loss as being something important and being something to address, because this can improve relationships, communication, work performance, and quality of life.
From personal experience, I can tell you that's true, because I told you before the show, I got tinnitus in my left ear, and it's not much fun, but I'm getting used to it, so it's been okay. But I went and got the hearing test. There was no stigma involved. It was no big deal. I got the hearing test, and yeah, I'm losing a hearing in one ear. It's part of the deal, getting old. So I didn't think it was a big deal. Anything else you want to add, Raquel, before we wrap it up?
I'd also say that getting a hearing aid is not the end to the journey. A hearing aid is just that. It's an aid. It's not going to restore the hearing, completely. And then after you get the hearing aid, there is this ongoing cycle of a communication strategy that you're going to manage the hearing loss with. So involving the family members, educating them about that, whether they go to the appointment, which would be optimal, or, the audiologist gives the family members the tools needed to share this with their family members. You're always going to need to check in and make sure you're using good strategies anyway in the process.
Very good. All right, Raquel Heacock, appreciate you being on the show. Jill Preminger, you as well. Good to see you, and thanks for the good advice. The College of Business is offering more and more degrees, certificates, and programming, mostly aimed at those of you who have careers but might want to change or are looking for a promotion in your current job. Kristen Lucas and Kathy Goss are with the College of Business and are here to fill us in on what is new at the COB. Welcome, ladies.
Well, thank you for having us.
All right, well, let's talk about the College of Business. You got a bunch of new stuff going on. So what's been the impetus for all these new programs and degrees and certificates and stuff?
Well, in 2017, we hired a new dean, Todd Moradian, and he came in with a bold challenge that we were going to be more entrepreneurial and more innovative, and we're doing just that.
All right, and so that's what these courses are aimed at, right?
Absolutely. And part of the larger strategy is that we really want to focus on the things that make Louisville, Louisville. And so we are talking about what are the places where we have strengths as a city and as a business community, and how do we draw upon that expertise to supply the talent pipeline with students who are well prepared for jobs, and then supply industry with really talented employees.
I guess that's why we got booze, franchise management, horses, those kinds of things, right?
Absolutely.
That's the programs. All right. Well, there was a program that just started this fall, right? The Master of Science in Business Analytics. Let's talk about that one only because it's the most recent to start, and then we'll talk about some of these other programs.
Sure thing. So the Masters of Science in Business Analytics is a specialized master's degree. So that means it's a 30 credit hour degree program, which is a little bit shorter, actually quite a bit shorter than a traditional MBA, which is 45 credit hours. Students can complete it in 1 year. And it teaches them how to do the technical side of managing big data in a way that gets to insights that drive business solutions.
So this would help me in what kind of job? What might I use this for?
Well, at an entry-level position, you might be an actual business analyst. But if you are a company and you're trying to figure out how to predict sales, and what kinds of changes are going to drive decisions, somebody can really do a deep dive into the data.
I got you. So that could help perhaps somebody right out of the College of Business at the University of Louisville get a job as they're walking out there.
Absolutely. And we know that there's a national shortage of data analysts in the country. So you probably see that when you go to the grocery store and you have that little discount card and beep at the cash register, that collects all the data on your purchasing and all the products you purchase. And then people can go into those huge amounts of data and predict what else you might buy. Right. So the coupons on the back, they're not an accident.
So that's what those courses are. And it's a Master of Science in Business Analytics. That's
Correct.
what the program is. All right. Kathy Gosser, we haven't even brought you in here yet. So
right.
of all these other programs, what's your favorite? Which courses you want to take?
Well, actually, the franchising management certificate, now that you ask me.
All right, there you go.
So the certificate process was brought in as a way, as Kristen said, to specialize in a field, and then that can be the jumpstart to an MBA or can be included into your online MBA. So the franchising management certificate is focused on franchisees, and there are 6 courses. They are asynchronous, meaning that they're 5 weeks each, but asynchronous means that you don't have to be online with someone. So you could take it at 2 in the morning, you could take it at 10 in the morning, whatever your schedule predicts, but the programs are designed to really help franchisees know how to run their business. A potential franchisee who wants to get started in that industry, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with the industry, but right now in the U.S. there are 760,000 franchise establishments.
Well, that doesn't sound that doesn't surprise me. I was going to say because McDonald's, Wendy's, all those, everybody, Pizza Hut, they've all got franchisees, right?
That's right. Now, what you've said are all restaurants.
Okay.
However, the industry is much larger than that. People typically
Service Pro,
now you're talking.
Yeah.
And what's really happened is this surgence of personal fitness franchises. There are a ton of those that have grown, and they continue to grow as we as Americans strive to get healthier.
Okay, and this program starts when?
We
It
start
hasn't started yet, has it?
February 11th.
Oh, my wife's birthday. Okay.
It's a great day.
All right, so it's franchise management. It's a certificate. So what does that mean? What is it? How many hours do I have to take? How many classes do I have to take to get a certificate?
So the certificates are 6 courses, and they're an hour and a half credit each. So it's a total of 9 credits. But each course is 5 weeks, and then you take the next course. So you can finish a complete certificate in 30 weeks.
Okay, so what's that? About half a year, a little over half a year.
Correct. And then those can be applied towards an MBA, or you'll just have the standalone certificate, which certificates are very respected in today's world to put on resumes.
Mm-hmm. And it might be good if you're getting ready to start a business, right?
Exactly.
I'm assuming.
Exactly. You'll learn some of the ins and outs of human resources. How do you actually finance your new business? Those kind of things.
Again, we're talking with Kathy Gosser and Kristen Lucas from the College of Business, who are talking about some of the new programs going on at the College of Business. The online MBA.
Yes.
Doesn't UofL already have an online MBA? I'm looking at this.
It does not.
Which is, I guess, surprising to me.
Right. So we are.
I thought everybody had an online MBA these days.
Well, so we were a little bit late to the market. As you said, it seemed like everybody had an online MBA, and we did not yet have one until yesterday.
Oh, it started yesterday?
So
Okay.
we did the official launch yesterday. And by launch, what we mean here is that we have opened up that degree to applicants to apply for that. Their first courses are going to be in August.
In the fall. Okay. And I know we've got the UK UofL MBA going on.
Which
a
is
little
our
bit different.
joint executive MBA, which is a face-to-face
Right.
experience.
So if I want to sign up for the online MBA at UofL, what do I get from the online MBA at UofL that I may not get anywhere else, or that I may really enjoy doing that's going to make it different from something else that I would
So
get?
a couple things that are unique to our program, Kathy already touched on one of those, is that students can specialize and customize their degree experience by choosing to do one of these online certificates. So we have one right now in franchise management. We are working on others in industries that are unique to Louisville, and there will be announcements in the coming months on some of those.
All right, and Kathy Gosser, if folks want to find out about the franchise management certificate or anything else of any of these programs, what should they do? How should they find information?
They can simply go to the College of Business website, and it is featured right there, and everything they'd ever want to know. You can always Google Franchise Management Certificate, University of Louisville, get everything you'd want to know.
Okay. Kristen, any final words? Oh.
Just go to business.louisville.edu.
Thank you.
And you should be able to find them all. Very good. All right, Kathy Gosser, Kristen Lucas, appreciate you being on the show. What does your young child or grandchild truly understand about who owns something? That's what Nick Knowles, assistant professor in psychology, and Catherine McDermott, who's a graduate student in psychology, have been studying, and they're here to tell us what they found in their research. Nick, good to see you again. Catherine, glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Graduate student, huh?
Yes.
How much time you got left? Assuming you do well.
A few months to a year and a few months.
Okay. All right. Enjoying it?
Yes, very
Nick,
much.
Is Nick okay as a professor?
Yeah, he is a good, he's my advisor, so.
Okay. So he's doing okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about this research that you two worked on involving kids and their perception and of who owns what. What was the research, and what were you trying to figure out?
So there's a couple of elements to it. We have a couple of different projects on this topic, and so the specific ones we're here to talk about today are looking at what kids understand about property transfers. So when property moves from one person to another person. And sort of traditionally, we think kids are pretty good at this, right? They understand what's going on when we buy things or give gifts or whatever. But the literature in this area has been inconsistent. So what Catherine and I have done is look at these inconsistencies. And so kids are pretty good at linking a person to stuff, right? A person to property. And they're good at keeping...
So Nick owns the train. That's Nick's train.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So they're really good at that.
And
right?
we're talking little kids, right? Young
little.
Kids. What are we talking age?
3-year-olds can keep track of things that are identical.
Okay.
Right? So that's some of my prior work.
Okay.
And so kids are really good at that part. But then you start to move the stuff, right? So you say, here's Nick's train, and I'm going to give it to you. Right? And then you say, who owns the train? And the kids are... strongly biased to say that it's still mine, even if they see me explicitly give it to you, right? Mm-hmm. And so, so this new study that's come out recently is me exploring this concept and seeing, we think kids are good at this, but how bad are they? And the answer is that they're pretty bad. So the previous research thought that they solved this problem by the time they were 5 years old, but that research referenced birthday parties. Right? And what's the one thing about ownership that we really message well with kids? Birthday parties. Mm-hmm. We're taking this gift. It's wrapped. We're giving it to Tommy. You're not taking it home. We're coming home. It's staying. Okay? That's
understands that.
Yeah. So we practice that script, and we go to birthday parties and actually do it. Right? Mm-hmm. And so kids can solve this problem in that format. But if you unwrap the thing, they get a little worse. If you take it out of a birthday party, they get a lot worse. Right? And so what I wanted to see is how long does it take them to get over this, to learn, no, like property can move. It can be sold or traded or given to somebody else. And the answer is not until they're about 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, parents are going to hate you.
Yeah. So 9 years old. But right, parents think that they're good at it, right?
Right.
And so the second part of my study was finding out why they seem to be good at it, because they do seem to be good at it. And so I shifted the study. So the first study is kids observing property moving between two people, right? The second study is the property comes to the child, right?
Comes to the child. So
yeah. So the property is the transition is from the experimenter to the child, and it turns out they're really good at that.
Oh, yeah. Once it gets in their hands, they figure out who owns it, right?
Exactly. And in fact, adults have the same sort of bias, right? We have what's called a self-serving bias, which is when things ambiguously come in our direction, we interpret them to be ours, right? Mm-hmm. So this can, cause problem with adults and kids. And so when they're in that situation, they suddenly look really good at this. Right. And so that's why we think they're good when they're actually... It takes them a long time to figure this out.
All right. That's Nick Knowles. He's an assistant professor in psychology. We also have with us Catherine McDermott, who's a graduate student in psychology. So, Catherine, what'd you learn when you're going along and helping Nick with this study? What'd you learn?
So the study that we did together after this was looking at why kids might think this way about ownership. So we looked at some cognitive competencies that kids have that have been theoretically linked to ownership understanding. And so what we were interested in is what maybe relates to their more mature ownership understanding or adult-like ownership understanding. And so we looked at 2 of these competencies that had been suggested to be linked to ownership understanding. So one of those is theory of mind, so understanding what other people think. And so this one makes sense when you're thinking about why it might be important for ownership understanding, because understanding what other people want and desire is probably an element in understanding of property transfers. And then the other thing we looked at was linguistic ability or vocabulary, verbal ability. And what we found was that actually neither of those were related to ownership understanding.
If a kid is really bright and has really good talking skills at age, say, 2 or 3, it doesn't make any difference. That kid is still going to have the same ownership perceptions as the kid who's 5 years old and may not speak as well.
So that's what we found, was that it didn't matter for understanding.
So what does matter? Does anything at all change the perception of ownership?
So what I think matters the most is experience. So age did relate to more mature ownership understanding. So as kids get older, they get better at it. And I think a big part of that is experience with property, experience having their own property, experience with more property transfers. And maybe it's not that there's a specific, cognitive underpinning that relates to it, but it's just general experience with ownership and property transfers.
So what's the message to parents here? Give your kids a lot of stuff, or make sure you have a lot of stuff that you transfer around the house several times so the kids understand whose it is?
Well, they're in a tricky situation, right? Because
Absolutely.
Parents are inconsistent, right? So sometimes when parents are teaching about stuff, about ownership and property, they have different goals. So sometimes the goal is like, some things belong to different people and not to you. Sometimes their message is you should share with your friend. Right, and sharing is a really important thing that we care a lot about, and it's not strongly linked to ownership, right? So I don't have to share my computer or my coffee cup, and we don't go to kids and say, if you want, you can destroy this truck and throw it in the garbage, right? We never tell them that.
Oh, we hope you don't say that.
Exactly, so some of these rules are problematic in their true form
because it's confusing to a child that young. Adults get it, the difference between sharing, ownership, those kinds of things, but kids don't. They're not equipped to handle that, right?
Yeah, and that's where they get confused as well, right? So you start sharing and this is mine, and it's actually, well, no, this is not yours, it belongs to them. But in a very similar situation, that a parent or even just some other adult might treat that situation differently. And don't forget, any adult can come in and undo a property transfer by a kid. So a kid might say, oh yeah, I gave my iPhone to Billy. And mom or a teacher or a sibling or anyone can say, no, you didn't. Billy has to return the iPhone. And even Billy's parents are like, yeah, okay, you can return it. Even though we all sort of understand, ostensibly that's fair if Billy really owns it. Mm-hmm. But Catherine had an idea about why this might be sort of qualified in kids, about whether or not they own stuff.
So I think the inconsistent input from adults is a big part of children's confusion with ownership understanding. And one of the things that might contribute to that is that kids don't really own a lot of stuff. A lot of their stuff isn't really theirs. So even if we tell them or they get a gift and it's their gift, it was given to them, or it's their property and it was given to them, really it's an adult who owns the property, which can make understanding property transfers or trades like Nick was talking about difficult for kids, because any adult can come in and say, no, you can't do that, or no, you need to share this. And I think that makes understanding your property rights in relation to things that you own difficult when someone else, really has those rights and not you.
All right, Catherine McDermott, graduate student. Hope you get through your studies just fine.
Nick
Knowles, again, thanks for being on the show. Always good to have you. Thanks for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards.